I'm the administrator here at LCI. I actually didn't grow up in Georgia. I grew up in a very small town at a very traditional church in Michigan. I was really involved up until about junior high or high school, where I started to be involved in sports, kind of fell away from being in church all the time. And it was at that point I started to drink kind of on the down low, didn't really want my parents to know that I was out doing that. And then when I got to college, I thought, and there's nobody to stop me now. So my roommate and I, we were at the club that was across the street from our dorm room, actually all the time, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, we were there. And then my first semester in college is when my parents actually separated. And then it was a few months later that they would get divorced. And so it was that really drove my drinking really heavily all throughout college. It didn't help that I became a bartender later in college, and so there were people who would drink with me all the time. There was nothing holding me back, and I felt like that was my escape. That was my way to not want to cope with what was happening with my parents at home. That really is what the entire 4 years of my college looked like. Skipping class, missing my 8 a.m.s, not doing great on tests and projects. And it wasn't until my last semester of my senior year at college that I got invited to come to this church. And my first Sunday at that church, I literally wept the entire time. I didn't know I was having an experience with the Holy Spirit. I had never felt that before, but I cried the whole time. I felt like, whatever this is, I need to be here for this. And so I moved my work schedule around. I did whatever it took. I had to borrow my roommate's car sometimes because mine would be at the bar from the night before. But I got to church, and that whole semester, that's the semester I gave my life to Christ. And the problem was I had already committed to an internship that was 3 hours away. So that summer I moved away and really quickly got back into drinking, started waitressing again, got surrounded by friends who were not living for Christ. And so towards the end of that summer, I could not get a job to save my life. I had a bachelor's degree and there was nothing opening up for me. God slammed every door possible. And so I didn't know what else to do. I packed up my car and I moved back to Mount Pleasant where our college was, and I cried the whole time because I felt like there was some hope and I was getting some relief to just get back home. And I got back to the church. I was on fire for God. I, joined teams. I was serving in the church. I was doing whenever the church was open, I was there. It was then that my now husband and I would start to do a Bible study together, and we really, it started off great, and then we started pushing all these boundaries, and a few months later we had to call and tell our pastor and our pastor's wife that we were pregnant with our first daughter before we were married. And so that was really devastating, and it was a hard time. But we sat down for a period of time from leadership and just really went through a restoration period. Our daughter Ava was born in January of 2014, and actually in December of that same year we were married. And so I really felt like God was redeeming the time. It was a really scary year before we got married, but I felt like we had our family now, and so we were going to be okay. And then he sent us to a satellite church to be campus pastors, where our second daughter was born, and that strengthened our roots a lot as a married couple. And then he told us to move to Georgia by faith with no jobs, no money. We moved down here all by faith, but God has provided every step of the way. So we've been here since June of 2017. We love where we are. We feel like we're really walking in our purpose, and we wouldn't trade any of it for anything.